Welcome to Canada's podcast, the number one podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs.
Hi, this is Angela Fay from Canada's podcast. Joining me today is Carl Fransen from CTEC, who ironically is actually not just around the corner for me here in Nanaimo, British Columbia. But that's a recent move. So that's part of what we're talking today about is remote work and kind of working from anywhere. What is happening now in the world as we know it? But let's start off with Carl. Can you give me a little bit of insight on your entrepreneurial journey to date?
Angela, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's always a treat talking with you and hanging out with you. And to answer your question, my entrepreneurial journey, it started back after 2.5 years of backpacking around the world. I visited over 40 countries, 250 cities, and when I got back to home to Calgary, I realized I had no fear of the unknown, and I was quite extroverted at the time. So back in the year 2000, I started up the CTEC group, and in the first 3 months, I made $800 in 3 months. And how can you turn your back on that kind of money? But
the first time you receive a check, it's every entrepreneur's
It should be up on my wall right now.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, it went for food and for rent at the time. But I did have a goal in mind. I wanted to create a new type of experience for my clients by giving my techs or my people who work for me the best tools to do their job effectively and efficiently. And that's one thing that we kept going throughout the past 20 years that CTEC has been around is that mindset of always being on the current edge and diving headfirst actually into that area. And it has been around 3 to 4 evolutions of CTEC as I progressed throughout those 20 years, always trying to look for the bigger, better, faster, stronger, but always keep in mind what the clients are really asking you for. They're telling you the answers to the test, and you have to basically adapt your business continuously to what they actually need.
Absolutely. Can you give us a quick, what are the 3 iterations of CTEC to date? I mean, we were talking 20 years ago right?
You know
to
what?
Today.
Back when I was your age, computers were all the rage. And there was one computer at a desk, and you had to walk into the office and actually do work that way. And that was supposed to be good. Fast forward a couple of years, and suddenly we have some kind of like this VPN, RDP, remote access kind of stuff. So now that people are actually able to work a little bit remotely, and there's a lot of limitations, a lot of problems with that, but it evolved over that time frame. And slowly, we said, you know what? Instead of selling you one server, 10 servers, I can sell you one server and put everything onto that one server. So now I have the reduced amount of hardware. Okay, that was something I had to learn. But I think the last iteration I'm going to talk about right now is kind of the most important because it's here today. And COVID gave it an artificial push around 2 to 3 years. Normally it'll take, but into the future. It's the cloud right now. Everyone knows the cloud, or as a monk here right now, it's called the modern workplace. And now that we're seeing businesses actually being able to take advantage of this new cloud technologies and whatever form it may be to enhance their business. So I had to continuously evolve, change, and adapt my staff to learn what I've got 25 years experience that are going obsolete right now because they have not learned the new stuff as of right yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, can you, and I realize it's very difficult to predict the future, but I had a visual analogy the other day as I'm listening at The Secret, how you're driving down the road in the dark and your lights are ahead of you. And, you just have to trust that the road is going to keep going beyond what you can see in the headlights. But if you could describe what you see in the headlights from 2021 ahead, how will that shape how CTEC operates?
You know what, to take that analogy one step further in a way, as a company that actually knows how to build the roads, we're able to know where the roads actually go. And we're able to predict with more general accuracy where the road's going to be going down next 5-10 minutes down the road. And now, so what we are able to do right now is saying, we are experts on the old technology, but the current technology has these functions. And now the biggest challenge that techs have is putting the geekiness into English. They're not bilingual. They speak either geek or English, not the both. So I've learned to be bilingual. And so what my prediction is right now is, to sum it up in one sentence, anybody at any time can access any information anywhere in the world to collaborate with anybody and have it on any device. There's a lot of any's in there. There's a lot to unpack, right?
And so one thing that I think that brings to the surface, I think that all of us are dealing with right now, is when the world is your oyster, literally, right? When everything is possible, or anything is possible, how to filter out or filter in, maybe is a better analogy, right? Filter, get through and stay focused on what it is that you are going to excel at in the next era, and what value you can give back to yourself, your community.
I think I alluded to the answer just a little while ago by listening to the clients. The clients have what I call pain points, ways of doing business, and the ways of actually saying, you know what, I come to the office every single day, or I open up that Excel spreadsheet and look at numbers all the time. And once you understand that there's a new way of doing something, you're able to introduce that new technology into their new environment, saying, you know what, as of right now, do you really want to do that commute anymore? Do you actually want to share files? How about what right now? I'll show you how to collaborate in real time with other people. Much like with Zoom right now. We're now having this wonderful Zoom call back and forth. But what if we expand upon that by actually fixing a real business pain point, whereas I won't have everyone drive in for a meeting. That's a very easy one. But how about this? Why don't we have people inside your organization collaborate on a document together and actually work on it in real time while looking at each other, talking, and editing a file? So if you stop and listen to your clients and say, you know what, you're doing it this way for now. I always like the horse and cart and car analogy. They have a horse and cart. They have a beautiful barn. They have a wonderful horse. They have it attached onto a cart, and they use it every single day. And we look at them and say, you know what, I have a car right over here. It's something different. It may not work for you because your roads might not be perfect for the car. But you know what if I basically showed you what the car looked like and showed you, would this actually fix your problems? And you know what? It's opening that door, getting that realization, saying that you could be doing something that you do normally today, but be more efficient at it, more effective, and at the end of the day, be more competitive and have better value for your IT spend.
I'm curious, Carl, we've gone from horse and cart to cars to, the future. It's if you're reading people or listening to people like Peter Diamandis, and that the roads might not exist, right? Or certainly ownership of cars might not exist, but and then the Jetsons, heaven forbid, was a show when I was a kid, and people were in hovercrafts. So I'm curious what your role is at CTech, or what influencers do you listen to not just build the car, build the road beyond the headlights, but actually start to create the vision, see the vision, so that the how kind of unfolds.
You have amazing questions and perfect timing. I was just actually doing that this morning. I blocked off 3 hours this morning to attend specialized sessions webinars put on by our vendors. And this one is Ingram Micro, attending Ingram Micro 1. Normally they fly me down someplace in the States, and I've taken all these sessions. While they have top industry experts, imagine the future, but put it in ways of actually, here's how we use it today, and give ideas for me to take to my clients. Not only that, it's about me actually applying that current technology to CTech, my business, and saying, hold on a second, I realize right now that I don't spend time looking for documents. I have this program that does it for me. I can say, hey, Angela, you know that document I was working on last week about that thing in it about the proposal about New West Corp, and you said you have no idea. It's like, yeah, sure, open it up for me. And you now have the ability to do that. I can find, and if it works for us internally here at CTEC, I can now then basically prove it and actually sell it to the client as,
Right.
you know what, we ate our own dog food, and it was tasty, and check it out.
How important is the proof of concept in a sort of transactional relationship? And what I mean by that is these, you hear great ideas, or you hear about space travel, or you hear about, it's possible for no car ownership, and us all to just have an app and call up a vehicle and at our disposal. So it eliminates a lot of efficiencies. Those are ideas at the moment that are being tested somewhere. How important is proof of concept at a local level or a regional level from your experience in the adoption of technology?
The proof of concept is, in my opinion, the difference between success or failure of the entire project.
Mm-hmm.
When you're offering, some people only move when they're uncomfortable. And when they do something a certain way, they don't want to move. But if you offer them a different way, they will potentially adopt onto that if the value proposition is good enough. However, this kind of comes down to the crunch part. This is a new way for them and also for you. You better have the ability to properly deliver that in a way that the client's asking for, and take them on that journey hand in hand. So take them from point A to point B and everything in between those two letters, and let them adopt onto it. I've installed massive systems that failed miserably because they worked perfectly, yet no one used them.
Right.
You need to find that client pain point, prove it to yourself that yes, it does work, and then guide them, teach them on how to use it, and change the way they currently do business, which is so hard to find right now. We have these CEOs running these multi-million-dollar corporations that think driving to an office in their own car is a good idea, or having an office space is actually mandatory, or physically seeing their staff is something that needs to be done, or else they're being lazy and non-productive. It's that mindset that you need to get around and change. And we're at the precipice of the door is there, the door's open. And you're just trying to get them to walk through and actually see that it's greener on the other side. Trust me.
And that's an interesting concept of, been listening and reading to different viewpoints as far as the shift in mindset from COVID being yes, it's a health pandemic, and I would like to acknowledge and express that there's no doubt about the impact and the health concerns, across the world. But some of the legacy pieces that are happening in our day-to-day and how we interact with our business and our staff and our community, and some of the legacy pieces that are actually, brilliant, much more efficient, much more productive, much more efficient. They're not based on resource extraction. They're based on leveraging high efficiency. And you've touched on a couple of those things as far as the new way to work in the future. And I think one of my questions to you earlier, and I'd love you to address it, is coming from a technology background, what do you know to be the legacy pieces that are no longer a disruption? They are realities. That you would love to see happen, more in the ripple effect, more prolifically across the board.
Oh, good question. Might take some time to think about that one for a little bit. But I think that my best answer would actually be this. Technology and all the legacy. There's some things that technology cannot replace. Is that human interaction, that the face-to-face contact. And we need to have basically, and sitting at home all the time is not healthy for a body. It requires stimulus. It requires you go outside. It requires that social interaction that a lot of times being mobile doesn't give to you. And having the opportunity to seclude yourself in your basement or in your office at home 8 hours a day and not get out is something that we need to overcome. So that legacy aspect of being human and having the human interaction is so very much has got even more important We have companies today like Microsoft who have brought back the virtual commute again. They're trying to say give you time to rest and reflect and interact with people in a much more constructive way. And we still need to have. Yeah.
Well, and I like that, the virtual commute. I tend to go with the, post work beers happens a lot in my life. So
where's the virtual
kind of the
water
same
cooler?
idea, right?
Yeah, no virtual water cooler anymore.
Water cooler, exactly. The water cooler, which is, that's what
camaraderie.
Some of the best moments and aha moments happen in the workplace when you're by the water cooler, you're relaxed and you've applied things, but now you're thinking about them from a new perspective.
Building relationships with people as well, right? Walk over to someone's desk and say, hey, let's go for lunch together. Or, hey, I need help with this. And you can sit down and you see the body language and they come over and they help you. And it brings you, as a social species, it brings you so much closer together that legacy piece right there is something that we will be lacking. At least for my generation. Millennials, not too sure. Where my some may have like 6,000 Facebook friends and never met any of them face to face.
Right.
But who knows?
Right. Well, and speaking of, the impact of who you're walking outside with and saying, let's meet up for a recreational activity or coffee or lunch, the community in which you live now and work is becoming so much more important. So I would like to touch on the fact that you've just made a move, a physical move with your family. Do you want to just describe a little bit about how and why?
This goes back to my core tenet of being family first and having basically the family not be driven by the technology. And as the president of CTEC, I also set an example for my staff and also for my clients and clients to be. I used to live in Calgary around 2 months ago. I moved myself over to Nanaimo in a matter of 2 weeks, and I'm now running my company. Yeah, I'm now running my company effectively and efficiently here in Nanaimo. When talking with my staff, they don't even know I'm actually even here. The only drawback is I work an hour earlier and I seem to work an hour later because of the time zone change.
Right.
Beyond that, my company is basically pure modern workplace. It's set up like this. And I reach out to my staff via Teams or chat or whatever. We collaborate on documents.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, my latest round of employees have quit their jobs to come work for CTEC because they didn't want to go to the office anymore. So me moving to Nanaimo, it was a pure shift of a better lifestyle. I can now basically walk out of my house. I have a view of Departure Bay. I see the ferry. I see Gabriel Island right across the bay, and it's gorgeous. Instead of basically driving half an hour to 45 minutes to Costco, I drive 8 minutes through a forest lane to Costco.
Right, exactly. I like to think that, the Nanaimo, it's not in our brand promise here, but it almost could be, where it's a 15-minute commute to anywhere, whether it's Costco or a trailhead or a transport hub.
The last hike that my family did was basically on the edge of Nanaimo, the actual city itself. We went to the Abyss and Creeper Route sort of thing. It was phenomenal. And normally in Calgary, I would have to drive maybe like an hour to get to Kananaskis or maybe to the trailhead and wherever I am. But everything is so close. The NSPs here are phenomenal. And everything is stable. All the amenities are around us right here. But one more thing I did for my staff. I had 3 hours of staff meetings one time. And I don't know the name of the lake. We drive along Island Highway number 19, going north on the right-hand side. There's a big lake right before the Costco going away. I found nice nice trail, and this probably 200-year-old like fir tree. I sat down next to it, showed on my laptop, hotspotted my phone, and I did my meetings in a forest next to a lake, 5 minutes from my house.
Wow.
And I was just as productive as working in an office.
Well, and it's I'm adding. So you've said some of the things that won't change is the need for the human interaction. I think the second thing that won't change and is probably even more reinforced now is our need to interact in nature. And so, less paved paradise and more trees and access to natural spaces, I think, is imperative.
One of the big things that I like bring to the table right here is a movement that I heard called re-ruralization.
Yes.
Remember when everyone decided to say, you know what, Mom and Dad, I'm about to leave the house. I'm going to go to the big city and find my career out there. That doesn't really seem to be the case going forward.
Interesting.
Because right now is everyone is building skyscrapers that have no need to be there anymore.
Wow.
I'm running a very successful multi-million-dollar IT firm from beautiful Nanaimo, and I'm just as effective. And my staff, all of them are working from home, being even more effective because there's no time for commute. And also what that is, I can now hire on people anywhere in the world to come here to work for my company, just like they're actually working by my side. So I'm predicting this drain of people leaving the need for the brick and mortar skyscrapers or buildings and putting their hand up on the internet saying, I have all these skill sets. I can do all this work. Freelance graphic artists, designers, customer service people. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and in this case, things like doctors are now so much digital, right? The things that relied on a massive infrastructure, bricks and mortar, and I'll say even campuses, universities, where there was a need to go to a campus, and now suddenly, that we have thousands of institutions across the globe that have delivered digitally for the last 6 months. So I think we're going to see massive move away from bricks and mortar conglomerates.
Yeah, let me paint a picture for you. Let's take an example of a dentist office or a medical center. Say a GP or dentist or whatever sort of thing is actually interacting with a patient and they need to consult a specialist. Much like we're doing right now, with her 2 or 3 pushes of a button, they can launch up a webcam. They are cheap. They basically pointed at themselves, pointed at the actual client and saying, all right, and the specialist on the other side could say, you know what, lift up the person's arm. Do this to them, ask them a few questions, and then you have a real-time, on-time consult right then and there, without waiting for an hour or an hour just to drive there, then wait in line, and then get an appointment, and do that. Real-time consultations happen all the time, especially during COVID. I heard even vets saying, point the camera at your dog or at your cat. Let me see their paws. Hold them up to the screen, and they hold up to the screen, and they said, "Do this, do this, do that" to them. Look at that, and the professional veterinarian is actually diagnosing and actually looking at the health of this animal via webcam. And look at his gums. Show me his gums. Okay, excellent. And that's happening today.
I want to go back to what were your clauses? Anytime, anywhere, anyone.
Oh yes.
What? I didn't write that down.
There's so many 80s in there.
It's kind of brilliant, really. It's kind of a synopsis, I guess, or an aggregate of remote work and the gig economy kind of mashing together and becoming the next wave, I think. And I'm gonna
say a current reality.
The new reality.
Yeah, the new normal, the new way of being. Absolutely.
Exactly. It's the great reset. And suddenly anything is possible. And I think I was at the Vancouver Island Economic Summit last week, and one of the urban planners said, we've been trying for 5 years to get paperless, and suddenly, boom, we were paperless in 2 weeks thanks to COVID. Yeah. And it's a little bit of going back to your comment, right? People only move when they're uncomfortable. The movement, I think, is going to be dramatic. I think there'll be systems reinvention, which I'm kind of excited about, and coming back to being able to work from anywhere. Now you can literally maybe where you live and work is more defined by the natural element and the culture of the people that you're going to bump into, right?
That's exactly why I came to Nanaimo. I came here because of the people. I met some great people, authentic, full people right here that really cared. And they were like, I went to ICBC and went to get my car air care tested. And the guys in the shop were basically saying, "Oh, hey, Carl, come down here, take a right. There's a real good coffee place for you to sit down right there." And the person's name is this. Like, wow, in Calgary, you never get that.
Interesting.
And when I got my insurance, they're saying that, you know what? I have never done so many out of province insurance transfers before. And I've worked here for 15 years. Like, wow, that's great. But the thing is, it's not working from anywhere. It's being able to collaborate, communicate, but also be secure. And also bring in people ad hoc that are not in your office, but outside your office and in real time to work with. It creates a whole community of knowledge workers that share ideas, to share concepts, to interact together in new and innovative ways.
Well, and I'm curious. That's kind of the where we live and work from. One of the messages that you and I wanted to try and uncover here is bestowing the idea of that you can live and work anywhere. So we've talked about maybe where you're physically living. How about who you're working with and how that will affect maybe hiring or growth for CTEC? I mean, using CTEC as an example, and then maybe your clients as far as, like you said, people can quit their jobs now and actually go work for CTEC because you're almost completely digital.
Exactly. And now
and I could live in, Whitehorse or Ukraine or other than the time zones, different and choose to work for CTEC, right? So
exactly.
Choosing CTEC over all of the other companies really is about you.
Yes. It's and the thing is,
you and your company values.
And very much so, yeah, because with so much technology, I had to basically put a people first approach actually to living this lifestyle. I had to listen, much like my employees became my clients, so to speak. I had to listen to them say, you know what, Carl, I used to do it this way right now. Can you make that better? Carl, I interact with clients this way. Give you an example. My sales guys right now are able, beforehand, we go to a Word document, write a proposal, print it out, attach onto an email, and then send to a bunch of people for corrections, and then we send out to the client. But right now, my sales guys, they can go up to a program, they push a button, all the templates are loaded in there, they fill in a few files, they push another button, and it creates a website for the client, and the client can go to this website and view the entire proposal. I cut down my sales team admin time by around 70% by creating that one tool for them. And now who you work for is really important because I realize that not everyone is like Carl at CTEC. I completely embrace the new technology based on my current business pain points to make life better for my clients. Other CEOs, other business owners, or decision makers kind of have a different mindset. I've done it this way for the past 20 years. It works. I know it. I like it. Don't change it because the change is scary. I call those guys the dinosaurs. And there's a big asteroid coming down. They may survive, perhaps not in their existing shape or form, but I'd rather be the mammals that realize that with this COVID asteroid that's going to be hitting us, that I can take that as an opportunity. I can take the opportunity and say, you know what? With this changing landscape, I'm going to adapt my company so that my staff can be successful here in the new normal.
So adaptation, I've written that down because I think that's one of the, as technology and progress, if you like, advances so quickly, something that, historically, and we can all think of those examples of, Blockbuster and Kodak and things like that. We know those business stories, but in going forward, you've already reiterated CTEC 3 times. What sort of pace do you think companies need to adopt going forward? And then what are those core skill sets that will be required going forward as we ourselves have to embrace them, but also, you know, in our teaching of our kids?
Exactly. The speed is dictated by how fast their customers are able to adapt on to what the client's actually providing for them. So I'm gonna go to a client side and say, you know, I can give you all this cool technology, but are you able to use it? And not only are you able to use it, but are your clients able to adapt onto this and actually say that's a real good idea? Is there a business value to that? And the problem is every single business is unique. There is a core infrastructure that everyone needs: collaboration, communication, but the deeper dive into things, that is, what is their unique selling feature? How are they going to get to market? And how can they be more competitive? If one business today needs to compete, another business right here needs to compete, who's going to win out? The client's going to make the decision.
Right.
I want those clients that are able to better. I want to give those clients, my clients, the tools for them to compete better, be more efficient, have better spend for their IT dollar than someone else who does it the traditional way. And that takes an investment. That takes a little bit of leap of faith as well. Will it work? Is this a good way about going about doing things? I'll be one of the first. But right now, 68% of most businesses in Calgary, across Canada, are not at full capacity as of right yet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that is a that's a daunting figure. But that means that they need to compete to survive. And guess what? The board game, the economy has changed radically. And now is a time to figure out, all right, since the game has changed, I need to figure out what best way for me to put my players, my pieces, so I can be able to adapt and also survive while everyone else wants to eat my lunch.
So I'm just bringing another. I spoke to Lior, who is the CEO of the sustainability group in Canada that promotes sustainability, and he's based in Calgary. So sustainability in business, and
Good.
one of the questions, and I'm not allowed to really say it because we don't have an answer yet, and it's not a perfect articulated campaign yet, but it's coming, is the future of capitalism, right? And addressing that. So
That's a big one.
It's a big one,
Wow.
right? Is what does that look like from a Canadian perspective, how we uniquely do business in Canada? And I don't know if you want to touch on that idea.
Oh, wow. My wife and I talked about this actually yesterday about perhaps the death of capitalism or the evolution of a new form of capitalism. Right now, our economy basically is a buy and sell economy. Those who basically are able to sell their products, you get people to buy those sort of thing, they are naturally selected to evolve and to grow until someone else can buy and sell in a different way. Now with COVID here and sustainability, and even in Calgary, the crash of the oil and gas market, there is a massive economic upheaval that traditional businesses will have a lot of challenges to even survive. But now, on top of that, with COVID, the government is giving us money to survive in a lot of cases, to some bailouts. And when the money or the blood of the economy stops flowing, the body dies. And right now, we're in stasis right here. And capitalism it requires that continuous exchange of goods and services for us to grow, for us to make that 10% growth year over year, or else we're falling behind. And now that we have basically right now the lost decade, not the last, but the lost decade, we're going to have the governments or the countries that are able to survive will be the ones that are able to better adapt to this. I got influx of money. No one can spend it because they're not allowed to leave their homes. If they do leave their homes, just get groceries and come back. That's killing a lot of other businesses out there that could be growing with their market and their new ideas, which is going to cause massive problem in the future, because once there's too much money in the system, sort of thing, we have inflation, then dollar devaluation, and then higher taxes to pay for all the loans. Governments
Right.
can print more money, but that's also a
Yep.
bad thing in the long run. I
Exactly.
wish I had the crystal ball for you, but
Well, I think that's the
Yeah.
point, right? Is we're kind of building that destination and trying to make that road go as fast as we have the lights turned on in front of us. Right back to our
Exactly.
analogy, but
Yep.
the
Into the road.
yeah, sadly,
Into the
I think
future.
we maybe revisit this conversation again
Yeah.
in and at least over red wine or craft beer here in
You're
Nanaimo
on.
if we get an
Absolutely.
opportunity, or on the climbing wall, right?
Yes, something local. It'd be great.
Carl, it's been awesome. I'm one question that I feel is yet unanswered right now for me in getting to know you is what influences, what mediums, what conferences, what
Oh, wow.
who is influencing how you think?
My influence comes from a lot of different sources, but mainly I'm on the board of a lot of corporations.
Okay.
And these corporations fly me out around North America, and I talk with other business leaders, other like-minded people, but with different ideas, different concepts. And being on those boards helps out quite a bit. But not only that, is now that with COVID here, there's a plethora of these specialized webinars that target
Yeah.
people like myself, saying here is how you can basically drive the future. In fact, I'm watching Netflix right now. Decoding Bill Gates' mind is one of them right now. What motivates him? How does he think? How does he actually live his life in a way as world's richest man and also founder of Microsoft? And really, to be honest with you, my family.
Absolutely.
My family tells me what they like, what they don't like. Hey, you're working too much, or hey, you know what? This right here needs to. I don't like this. This power lifestyle needs to be changed. And then from there, I can go back and say, you know what? I can re-engineer my lifestyle this way. And if I can do that, maybe I can push this out to my staff and say, hey guys, every Wednesday on CTEC we have virtual games night. We hop on, we play a game together, and we're now more social as a team.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm curious, you've made the move. I know it's only recent, but have you noticed any other staff that have put in requests for, a 2-week leave while they relocate to another community?
Everyone's jealous of me, absolutely. And in fact, some of my peers, very educated, high level, very high paid individuals sort of thing, I'm in constant communication with them. And they're saying, maybe I can live in Nanaimo. And we're actually hosting a family actually next week coming here and doing exactly what I'm doing. And a lot of our friends in Calgary are saying, you know what, Calgary may not be the place to be right now. I can work from anywhere. Now that you guys have done it, we can do exactly the same thing. So I think that we're kind of the first in a long series of people that are actually making this an actualization of this reality that this right here is doable. You don't have to go to the big city, pay a massive mortgage for a small house in a downtown core. You can come to a place like this, pay the same amount, have a much larger house in a forested area with neighbors who you know, and that forced drive to Costco.
Well, and I think that even in a tourism sense, that there's the whole high level conversations are about the hyper local, right? And the return to hyper local, where your neighbors, you spend time because you're not commuting 2 hours a day. You're actually out doing your yard work, and you're walking to the corner store and things like that because you've got a little bit more time. So I think
local, living, working, and buying, working, and living local.
Yes.
And having that community feel yet again, like back in Calgary, I really didn't know my neighbors that much because even though I work from home, they didn't. They at 7:30, at 6:30 in the morning, they're in their cars driving to downtown.
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever they drive. I don't know what I was at home working wherever they left. I didn't see them all day. I took a walk around an empty suburbia.
The highest and best use would be a little bit more densification, right? And actual activity. And going back to, I think, the bestowing the idea and our final wrap up being you can work from anywhere. And wouldn't it be great if you can nurture those human connections and natural connections in wherever you work that doesn't at all detract from being able to work globally?
engineer your lifestyle for a positive experience.
Woohoo!
And a
I love
positive life.
it.
Good. Me too,
Carl,
man.
it has been an absolute pleasure having you on Canada's podcast, and
Thank you, Angela.
we look forward to liaising with you again. I know we'll meet again.
Count on it. Have a good day, Angela.
Bye.